Welcome back, guys. In this video we start to now look at setting up the IBM Cloud account. So we're using IBM Cloud as our cloud virtual machine really. So it's like having a computer up in the cloud, a virtual computer that we can install software on, we can store some data on, we can use a lot of functionality on this cloud account to allow us to create an IoT solution, an Internet of Things solution. So we're going to use IBM Cloud. You could use Amazon, Google, a lot of different cloud services out there. But we're going to go ahead and use IBM Cloud. They offer a free account and you get a lot of functionality out with it. And NodeRed suits really nicely with IBM Cloud. In fact, I think IBM developed NodeRed. So what you would do is you go into search, Google search IBM Cloud, and then get started for free, create a free account. Okay. Now there's some business models for this account and they're quite expensive, but a lot of stuff we can do with the free account. Okay. Now you would put in your email, verify your email, some of your personal details and stuff like that on the account, and then you have to use a credit card to verify your identity or a debit card. Okay. It will charge you £1 to set up the account, but then it will give you that £1 back. Now, just one thing to bear in mind, IBM, their anti-fraud system that they have developed here to make sure people aren't creating multiple accounts and trying to abuse their system, it's very particular. We have had some problems at times setting up different accounts and using particular usernames and email addresses, so be careful. A couple of things to keep in mind. Try and use a standard domain name, so like a Gmail, a Hotmail, something like that. Sometimes a work account maybe doesn't work, or if you've got a very funny email address, it may not work. So try and use some of the standard ones. You'll have to verify your email, of course. Then you got to put in your personal details, and that has to match with your credit card or debit card that you use. So, they're trying to verify your identity, so the billing address on the credit card and the name of the credit card or the debit card needs to match the details that you're pulling in here. Okay, so keep that in mind. If it doesn't work, you can get on to their customer service. They do respond quite quickly, and they can verify it and set up for you. Okay, so just those are a couple of things to keep in mind. But once you've created an account and you've verified with your credit card, you will get access to something like this here that you can log in with. Okay, and this is the full dashboard of all the stuff you can do with your kind of virtual machine and your cloud storage here. Okay, now there's loads of resources and products. There's a full catalog of here of what we can install into this kind of cloud computer for us. And as I said, there's so much here, so much to do. Now we're using a light account, a free account, so there's only so much of this stuff that we're going to use, and so much that we're only certain amount of things that we're going to be able to use as a free account. So do keep that in mind. One of the big things we're going to use is the NodeRed application. Okay, so you can see I can actually install this onto my cloud account and use a lot of the functionalities very similar to what I have, exact similar to what I have on my local account, but I can start to now do this on the cloud, which is going to be really interesting. The other thing you will have IBM Watson. Let me just see what way this actually they call it. Maybe they call it the IoT Internet of Things platform, which is basically linked to your thing called IBM Watson account, right? And this gets linked automatically under your username, but what you would actually be doing is we'd be going on to a thing called IBM Watson, and we'd be signing in with the same criteria to link this kind of IoT platform. Okay, so it's still linked under your same IBM account with this IBM Watson. Okay, so I should be able to have that logged in. Okay, now on this account, that is ultimately, I'll just go back to the home page. They are the two main things that we're going to use here. We're going to use NodeRed, we're going to use a thing called IBM Watson. Now you can think of IBM Watson as a bit of a data storage for yourself, and your NodeRed is going to help link some of your devices together, but also it's going to help create a dashboard on this website, on this web account for you. Okay, so we can visualize all the data coming in. As I said, there's a lot of stuff here to get familiar with IBM Cloud. We're going to use a very small section of it to allow us to do what we want to do. Okay, but as I said, there's a lot here to do on this. We're not going to delve into all of it. We're just going to do a small amount. Now, really, what I'd like to set up first is my NodeRed. Okay, so very quickly, simply we'll search for NodeRed, the application, and we will go ahead and try and create this. Okay, now to run this, you will need what's called a cloud and service to store basically the data. Okay, so we will get a free one with this. So we need to create it. We're using a light plan. Make sure you are using a light plan, otherwise you're going to be out of fortune. Try and select the region that is closest to you. It doesn't really matter, but it helps improve some of the speeds of your cloud services. It'll give it a name. We'll just call it NodeRed. This is the date that's being created on it, and we can start to create the or install the software. Okay. Now, basically, what it's doing is we have this cloud and storage. It's going to install this basically file for us. Okay. And then what we'll need to do is we will need to then deploy this application. So all we've really done is just kind of save the NodeRed JavaScript file onto it. We've still got to deploy it and kind of build the program on the cloud. So we've got to allow it to connect and get started, and then we'll be able to deploy the app. So with some of these stages that we're going to do, it'll take a minute or two for it to actually build on your cloud account. So I'll pause it and then we'll come back in the next stage of the video. So it's successfully initiated my cloud and service, and it's installed, saved the version of the JavaScript NodeRed onto that. And now we've got to deploy my app. Now to deploy it, again, you're going to need to make use of a kind of web container to do this. Okay, we are going to use a Kubernetes service. Okay, the other ones are kind of used with more industrial accounts, but we'll see with the Kubernetes we get one free cluster per account, per light account. So that's what we're going to use. This will last for 30 days. Okay, then after that, so make sure you have to back up your stuff and save your code, because we'll not be able to use NodeRed after 30 days. Okay, so it allows you to create an API key for this, that's okay. We'll go ahead and create it. It's fine. Generally, you should save that API key somewhere that is available for you. Then what we want to do is we want to link it to the cluster that we have. We haven't actually created our cluster, so sorry. We need to create our Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so it must be available before we can select it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the cluster, and we've got to wait a few minutes for that to be created. So I'm just going to do this in a side account here. We're going to create a cluster and making sure that we are using our free account. Okay, so keep that in mind. We'll call it my cluster free, and yeah, once we don't see any cost coming through there, that is good. We will go ahead and create this. So just create a container for us to install the software on it. So we've got to, this will expire in 30 days, we've got to wait for this to completely get developed or get created on our cloud account. Okay, so we will see it eventually come through saying that it's completed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause this. Okay, so after a couple of minutes, probably 5-10 minutes, the cluster will be created, and we can now use that to deploy our app. Okay, so we're going back into here into the version of NodeRed. We've selected the Kubernetes, and then my cluster has become available that I can create that to. Now, it let me just double check this. It's set mine to Milan. If I change this, does it still? Yeah, I've got to go back to wherever it previously was. Was it Frankfurt? That I had the cluster, so we just got to go with whatever it's set up. Maybe there's a way to get that closer to you, but as I said, look, it doesn't really matter. So we can go ahead and click next, and then create the version of NodeRed and kind of install it onto this cluster. So again, it's going to take a few minutes to do that. So it's going to start to deploy it here. And you actually can get the source code of this application, edit it and play around with it, but we're taking just a standard installation of NodeRed and we'll develop it through the user interface as that gets created. So look, this is going to start to deploy. It'll take another couple of minutes to do it. Just to go over that again, what we did was search for NodeRed, download the source code. We had to save it onto a cloud and service. Okay, so a cloud and service, we save that into it. Then we went to deploy our app, but we needed a Kubernetes to deploy it to, which is container, and then it will start to deploy it. Okay, so it needs to run this pipeline to deploy it, and then what you will eventually get is then a web link here, which will allow you to run the version of NodeRed. So we've got to give that a minute. I may need to click to start the pipeline here. I can't quite remember, so I may need to go in here and just start the pipeline. Ideally, it should start. Okay, I'm going to run it. Can I not run that pipeline? Why is that? Maybe it's just coming through here now in a second. Yes, so it's starting to go in progress. There it is there. Close that down. So I knew it would start it at some stage. So it should automatically start that. And again, in a couple of minutes, that should be completed. So in about 5 or 6 minutes. So I'll pause this. So that process to actually run that pipeline, I know it actually still says in process there, but it has completed. It did take nearly 15 minutes there for that to run. But then we'll have a URL here that will allow us to run our NodeRed application. Okay. Now you can set up username and password, but I'm going to go ahead and we'll be able to set this up. Okay. Remember, this only lasts for 30 days. And then we can go next, and yeah, if you want to change anything to the installation, you can do that. But basically, we're going to go ahead and allow this to run, and we can go to our NodeRed flow editor, and basically what we get is, okay, we don't need to go through that. We get it set up the exact same way we would have seen it on the local installation. Now remember, some of our libraries will be installed, some of them won't be installed, so I do recommend going through our palette here and loading in the ones that we want to have access to. Okay, but there we have NodeRed set up. There is a bit of a process in getting it set up. So anytime you go, you kind of log back into your IBM Cloud account, you'll come back, you'll usually get this landing page, and then again, once you type in now NodeRed, your installation, your instance of the installation that we did should be available here. We can click into it. It'll give us this kind of an overview of it, showing the installation and how it was set up, and then we can get back into that URL and back into the version of NodeRed. Equally, if you just search the URL, it'll come up now that it's created. Okay, so that's how you set up NodeRed, and you could continue to create a dashboard or import code the way you would kind of normally do it locally, but now it's sitting on the cloud for us. In the next video, we're going to look at the final part that we really need, or the final bit of setup that we need for this is the IBM Watson, which will store some of our data for us.